G'day guys, how's it going? My name is CJ, and today we're going to be talking about a phone that's been pretty much covered to death by all of tech YouTube, but it's basically non-existent in Australia, aside from maybe a few hardcore Android fans. I'm talking about the OnePlus 5. Let's look at this device from an Aussie perspective. Having been covered to death by all of YouTube, the general gist about this phone is that what we've got here is a phone with laptop competing specs and performance, safe and potentially copycat design, and also a decent camera that doesn't quite seem to be living up to its own hype. All of this is important, however, what's most interesting to me is its relevance now to markets outside of China, India, the US, and Europe. So OnePlus loudly proclaimed during the announcement that the OnePlus 5 is finally a true global device. It supports up to 34 network bands across the globe. Now this isn't particularly unique considering most mainstream manufacturers have been producing phones with global network band coverage for a while. But this is exciting for me at least because OnePlus, like its Chinese brethren like Xiaomi, tend to produce really competitive phones with competitive specs at competitive prices, all at a cost of not being particularly friendly to the local Australian market due to its limited network band coverage. But why does this actually matter? Well, in Australia, the two largest telcos, Telstra and Optus, both use the network band 28 to provide the most reliable and fastest LTE 4G network coverage, especially outside metro areas. And up until now, most phones coming out of China didn't include support for this network band, and so unless you were with Vodafone, you were left up the creek, so to speak, in regards to speed and less than desirable network reliability. So now with OnePlus 5, Aussies and potentially other countries where the Chinese didn't actually provide any support have even more choice regarding what smartphone they can buy. And boy, is the OnePlus 5 a compelling option. In terms of using it in Australia, it works basically as you'd expect, though you'll need an adapter since we use the funny Type I socket. It kind of looks like the face you'd pull if you ate a sourworm or a warhead. But in any case, there are no limitations and it works just like any other mainstream device would. The speed and feel of the phone is on point and it's just as, if not smoother than the Pixel. The camera is actually really good. And the portrait mode is just like any other smartphone portrait mode. It's a mixed bag of good and bad. Even in my experience, it's actually been mostly good. The OLED screen looks great, it's plenty sharp, even despite it being 1080p, and that actually means you have a little bit better battery life as well. The design looks good, even if it is a little uninspired, and it feels really good to hold in the hand. It has one of the best overall user experiences of any of the flagship phones in 2017. And most importantly for us, LTE connectivity is fully supported and there are no compromises. Now this all sounds pretty good, but for us Australians there are a couple of fairly big issues that we need to think about before dropping some money on this. The biggest issue with owning a OnePlus 5 in a country like Australia where there is no physical presence for OnePlus is exactly that. There is no physical presence. So the only way you can source one of these phones is to either get a friend who lives overseas to buy you one, or you go through a third-party grey importer like Banggood or Gearbest to get you one. But then by doing this, you're basically forking out hundreds of dollars of money to buy a grey import device with no local warranty and no local support. So if you run into any issues with the OnePlus 5, warranty becomes a real issue. Then even if you do get approved for a warranty claim, chances are this phone's going to have to go back to the country of origin, meaning you'll be without a phone for weeks, even months. Now on the same note about grey imports, People tend to buy great import devices purely because you get a sizable discount when you compare to the local devices. So with the OnePlus 5, instead of reaping the benefits of getting a significantly cheaper device, you're actually looking at paying more for this device than your overseas brethren where OnePlus actually sells the phone direct. And the reason is that these third-party importers need to make money off these phones, so they're going to slap fees on top of the already poor Australian exchange rate. So with this, you're going to be looking at paying upwards of 700 Australian dollars for the 64GB version with 6GB of RAM. And then you're going to be paying almost $800 for the 128GB version with 8GB of RAM. That's about a $100 hike on the original recommended retail price. And that doesn't even include shipping costs as well. So by this point, for what effectively is a grey import device, you're going to be looking at paying at almost up to $850, which actually starts bordering on the same prices for grey import versions of the Galaxy S8, the LG G6, or the HTC U11. Sure, it undercuts local flagship phones by several hundred, but then you have, in my opinion, a fairly big trade-off when we're talking about local support. In the end, you're still dropping a decent amount of money on these kind of phones, and sometimes it's just nice to know that you've got support if your phone decides to cark it one day. Otherwise, if you're not overly fussed about these kind of grey import issues and you love running the gauntlet, then you have another cracking option with the OnePlus 5. For people who live in countries where OnePlus already sells this phone direct, I've got no hesitation recommending this phone to anyone. It's one of the best phones for the price with the specs and the user experience around. But as an Aussie, should you buy this phone? Well, if you don't mind the grey import issues, then take a very good look at it, because you're going to be hard pressed to find another phone with the same amount of specs, with the same user experience and smoothness. But if you need that peace of mind with local warranty and support, then at least you'd be glad to know that a lot of these 2017 Android flagship devices are getting cheaper and cheaper, as long as you know where to look. They're still more expensive than the grey import alternatives, and they always will be, but they are getting cheaper. So what do you think? Are you going to buy the OnePlus 5? Do you already own the OnePlus 5? What do you think about grey import devices? Do let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like, and if you haven't already, do consider subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Say good day to your mum for me. Cheers.